right, we've got Blake and Declan here from Confessions of a Recruiter, and we're joined with our podcast guest, Joel from 4020 Consult. How are you, Joel?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, the rules of the podcast, if you're watching or listening, we've just got one rule, and that rule is to tell a mate about the podcast. We're trying to create a bigger community in the recruitment industry. So if you just say something to a mate about this podcast, that's all we ask.
And, mate, if you invite Joel anywhere, he's probably going to bring 420 beers, which is awesome.
40-20 beers?
40-20 beers.
Oh,
Four Hearts Brewing, Ipswich.
Yeah, mate, it's awesome. You're the first guest that's bought us beers, bought us a gift.
Hopefully it sets a precedent and all the guests from here on in
and we got
are very
some
generous.
Pretty good 40-20 hats.
Yeah,
40-20 Consult. These are pretty good quality.
Should I tell you my hat story now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's start
Let's
by
just start
the
with
hat
a
story.
big swinging hat story.
Yeah. I studied marketing, but I never really worked in marketing, but I've always been a bit of merch, always doesn't hurt.
Yep.
So we're like, let's get some hats, and worked with a merchandise guy, a really nice fella. Anyway, the hats arrived. We ordered 100, and he rang me up chatting. We got a bit of rapport, so we're talking about sport and his weekend and everything. 20 minutes in, I'm like, I've got to go to work, mate. I'll go and talk to some people. He goes, just while I've got you, funny thing happened. At some part of the procurement journey, someone's added a 0 to the end of the order. So we've actually got 1,000 of your hats. And I was like, oh, okay. That's like a lot more than we ordered.
Oh, wow.
900 more. And he's like, so not sure if you wanted to take more. And I said, felt bad. So I said I'd take an extra 100 off him, and he lowered the price. And he said he'll try and sell them to some other people. And then sort of let him...
Your hats to someone else.
Yeah.
Are you
He was going to
serious?
put badges on them. He was going to stick a badge on them and then sell them to someone else. And then I suppose he tried that for 2 months, and then we spoke again, and I end up buying the rest off him for like cost price. So
How good.
they're really expensive, $6 each.
That's
And you,
awesome.
and you only bought us one each.
Yeah, no, I've got a box in the car. You can have 25 each.
$6 each. That's pretty cheap. I was
Yeah.
telling you just before that I bought 2 ex-recruiter hats. They were $120 each. I spent $240 on 2 hats.
What are they made of? Like Yeezy sneakers? You've chopped them up and...
They're like dry fit hats. They're like good
okay.
hats, but
But, mate,
these
you couldn't
are-
tell the difference.
Nah,
$6 for these puppies.
mate, I like the shape of these. You know how, you got like A-frames, you got like runner hats.
Trucker cap.
Trucker
Trucker
caps.
caps. You got all these different variations.
Yeah.
This
These
is
are
the variation that
bird-watching
I feel
hats, yeah.
like.
Welcome to
couple of bird
welcome to
watching.
the Cap podcast. We're talking hats.
Yeah, I don't know how we've got here. So anyway,
I drove. But anyway, that's another point. Sorry about all the dad jokes, but strap in. You get used to them.
Mate, we're coming off Father's Day, and we're all
Yeah.
dads now.
Appropriate.
So we need some new material.
have a look at this. Best dad ever.
That is awesome.
Oh, mate, I've got that. Dee gave me them for what's the love when you do the Valentine's?
Oh, Valentine's.
Yeah.
No, I'm not familiar.
I've got matching undies with Dee's face and love hearts and socks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't get 1,000 of them. She only got me one.
No, that's a shame.
So tell us what you were doing before recruitment.
So I'm from Redcliffe. I'm a bogan at heart, and I wasn't the most academically studious young man. Probably just distracted. I'm obviously really intelligent, but I was just distracted. So when I left school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Worked in warehouses and drove forklifts and literally unpacked containers off the ships that were full of cigarette packets. I took them out of the
But mate,
the
that's
containers.
a great paying job when you're fresh out of school.
Yes, it was
A
good.
lot
I
of
was
the
getting
boys did
paid
it.
decent
Forklift
money.
driver?
No, you're a container unloader.
Pick a packer, yeah.
I had a few
okay.
mates doing it for P&O when
Yeah,
we finished
yeah.
school, and they were raking it in.
So I did 6 in the morning till 2 in the Arvo, and I'd knock off. It was at Oxley, and I'd be home by 2:30, and I had the whole Arvo to do stuff. So I'd go to the gym or whatever. So it was actually pretty good. But obviously after about a year of that, you kind of go, maybe I should get serious. So I went back to college, did like marketing, but then just got into sales jobs. So I sold construction materials like cementitious mortars and concrete products.
Who for?
Two jobs. Epires, Morgan Chemicals.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
nice.
and then
We recruited a bit in that space, like fasteners and that type of
the
stuff.
second mob wasn't as long. It was like precast drains and things. Yeah. So that was pretty exciting. It's riveting stuff, obviously.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to get the shot.
Bright, shiny camera. Then I actually worked in finance and insurance for 6 months. That nearly killed me. But gym sales I did for like 3 years. So I worked in a gym in Edward Street in the Brisbane CBD, which is pretty cool. Met some really interesting members there. Sold lots of memberships, lots of PT, did pretty well. Then they made me a sales manager of like...
So how does that work in the gym process? Are you a PT or are you a salesperson?
No, I wasn't a PT, no.
Oh, you're purely just selling?
Sales.
Yeah,
full-time sales.
Yep.
Did corporate sales though in the city as well. So you did like one-off members, but then like I'd sold to like PwC and like big companies. Queensland Health was one of my biggest clients, so did pretty well. Then they made me a sales manager of a new gym where I had 3 staff, and that's when I was talking to Tash about like shopping centre pre-sales. I did all that sort of stuff, which is character building, like it really is. And then I ended up like a general manager of like a more of a country club style gym, and I was like working pretty hard, earning pretty good money, but like realised the glass ceiling. Unless I own a gym, I was like, oh, I'm kind of at the top already. So then a friend recommended that I get into recruitment, and I was like, what's recruitment? And then she explained it to me, and I was like, still don't really understand, but that's cool. So then I went to an interview. They explained it to me. I was like, oh yeah, I think I've been placed by a recruiter before. They never met me, never spoke to me after I was in the job, and I quit after 2 months. So I'm guessing you're saying I probably cost them a replacement. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, he was a dickhead anyway. Never met me. Like he rang me on the phone for 5 minutes, coordinated an interview, and obviously got a fee. And I was like, oh. So my first experience in recruitment was what shit recruitment looks like. So that was my first job was with Hayes. So obviously multinational, huge company, big history. But in Brisbane at the time, this is 21 years ago, they had like 12 staff in Queensland, I think, in total, something like that. There was a very small office, maybe 150, maybe 200 square metre office. They had room to grow, but I think there was maybe 12 or 14 staff in total in Queensland. And first day sat next to a mate of mine, Nigel Matthews, project partners. Shout out to Nigel, still mates now. So he was the first recruiter I sat next to. I think he started 6 or 9 months before me, so he was like a veteran
now,
compared to me.
Yeah, what was recruitment like back then? Like, there's so much tech now, or it's
it was
still
like
the same?
low tech. No, we were like faxing.
So how does this work? Because this is really interesting. So I was chatting to one of my clients, and he's about 65. He goes, mate, when he was like an APAC manager of a big valve company. He goes, mate, we see letters sent to us. So they'll be like, if you open this letter, that candidate is bound by our terms.
No.
Bro, that was recruitment.
So you hold it up to the light to make sure it's like, oh no, hang on.
Yeah.
Blended. Get out of it.
So you just want to chuck out all the recruitment letters so then they weren't bound by terms.
I was talking to someone the other day. I can't remember who it was, but he was talking. He was a
Made a big
recruiter in
impression.
Sydney. Huge impression. Yep. And he was a recruiter in Sydney, and he used to try and beat candidates to their clients, and he'd jump on his pushy and like push bike to his client's office in the CBD to try and get resumes in front of them quicker than another recruiter because they'd have to deliver.
Hand deliver.
Yeah. So they would have like a couple of people on pushies in their office, and they just gas it to the client's office and hand out resumes and try and lock candidates in.
That would have been
mate,
that'd be sick.
Break up the day from like cold calling.
Chuck a couple of beers in.
Yeah.
Be getting all the
You burn off
send-outs.
the calories.
Yeah. Imagine just push biking it to your client and trying to get a send out.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And you'd be riding fast, the adrenaline's going. Like
Yeah.
your mates would see you later, they go, you look really fit. What have you been doing? Oh, recruitment.
You'd be Devo if you just didn't get feedback on the spot. They'd be like, all right,
Yeah,
mate,
yeah.
we'll take a look at it when we get time.
We'll
Be like,
get back to you.
fuck, got to ride home again.
So
Yeah,
you would have
yeah.
to fax them. So what was the process back then?
Honestly, like I'm 47, so my memory is pretty shithouse. Nothing to do with the beer. But yeah, I think we were like emailing, but we're also like some clients weren't as modern. So there was like a combo.
Yep.
But like people I worked with talked about the days where it was like all hard copy, everything. And then they had like candidate cards. They'd refer to, when they spoke to them, they'd update it and put it back in the filing cabinet, that sort of stuff.
Did you just have CVs and paper everywhere?
Yeah, but then
Like
they
boxes?
got like the ISO accreditation or something. And so it had to be, you had 2 drawers in a filing cabinet per recruiter, and you could only have like an inbox on top, like the physical, the old in tray, and that would you couldn't have any other paper apart from in that filing cabinet. the 2 drawers couldn't have any files in them, and just the in tray to comply with like the ISO accreditation. And then they'd go through the database and make sure it was all compliant as well. So the boss would run around and go, the compliance auditors are here, and you can go on holiday. All the people that were dodgy, they'd go, you just leave the office. And then they'd try and push the auditors towards the really compliant recruiters, who were generally the ones that didn't bill a lot, but they like their database and their paperwork was Mickey Mouse. So they were the ones that always got audited.
Which one were you, mate?
I was like a hybrid. Probably I wasn't too bad on the database and with QA, but probably better at billing.
Yeah, true.
But like with Hayes, if you're successful, they thrust you into leadership, or they split your desk. You kind of become a victim of your own success in a way. They're like, congrats, Declan, you're kicking ass. We're going to split your desk. And you can have 80K and whatever. Or you can just do perm and contractors someone else does. So you're kind of like, awesome, thanks. It's a bit like Stockholm Syndrome. Some people fall in love with their kidnapper. Like Hayes is really good in a way, but I think they stifle entrepreneurial thinking. And so people that want to be entrepreneurs, they like break out of it eventually and go and do their own thing. Like that cohort that we worked with, like there's so many business owners that come out of that era. And so I suppose for Hayes, it's a bit unfortunate. They created like a whole lot of competition for themselves if they'd just been a bit more flexible.
And why do you think that is? Is recruitment one of those industries where it's just low entry, you work out, you got to find a client, find a candidate, and all of a sudden you got a business? Or
yeah, look, there's not much of a barrier to entry to being a recruitment company.
Does that frustrate you?
No, don't worry about anyone. Like the only competition is like the man in the mirror. Like if you turn it up and you're doing what you need to do every day, that's the only recruiter you got to worry about is the one in the mirror.
Yeah, 100%. But do you think if it was a little bit more of a standard to go by, like they brought in labour hire laws, that type of stuff, that says get the Cowboys out of the industry, or do you think it's
like
healthy to
people
have a
will
few
still
Cowboys?
find a way to hack the system and like they'll find a way to like cut corners. It's just a matter of like businesses sticking to standards and going, look, we're going to miss some deals, we're going to lose some clients, but we're not going to sacrifice our own integrity and standards and just keep rolling, keep doing that. And then actually when you bring new people into your business, you think you got high standards, and then the new people, if they're the right people, they actually help you raise your standards. And it's just the 1% changes and improvements that add up to like, big improvements over time. So like no one's reinvented recruitment really. No. It's just whether you can look people in the eye and you're a person of integrity and you stand by the work you do, then that builds momentum over time. And so like, obviously I'm 21 years in, but even youngsters like yourself, like in a short time, you've built a tribe and a reputation for, doing the right thing. Imagine when you've got like 10, 15, 20 years in, like it's just inertia and momentum. So you just got to keep doing all the right things.
And how long were you at Hayes before you said, I'm going to...
4 years. So I was like 18 months just on a desk. I actually quit after 6 weeks, so I'll tell you that story. So they had me doing building construction and civil construction temps only, which if you know those sectors...
So the industry you're in now, you were in from get-go?
Yep. And the only change was after 6 weeks, I couldn't place civil construction temps on building sites or vice versa, and my manager would often take my good candidates and place them into perm jobs, and I was like, this is getting a bit frustrating, so I just said, I'm out. They rang me back and said, we've took on your feedback. Like we might be able to change things for you. Come in and see us. And I had a couple of days off and I went back and saw them, and they said, we want you to own civil construction. And I was the first person in Hayes recruitment history that just did civil construction, not other stuff. And then my manager took building construction on temp and perm, and then he quickly hired someone else to take it off him so he could manage, I suppose. Did that. So I did that civil construction, temp and perm for 18 months. And then I think maybe I was like 20 months in and they asked me to go manage the construction team on the Gold Coast, which was an existing business, but a smaller office, but it was, I think, a team of 7. And I was like, I barely know what I'm doing, but obviously they saw something in me, and I went down there and took over that office and ran a team, performance managed some people left, brought in some new people, created a couple of really big billers, and turned it into it was like a 50 to 70 grand a month-ish business, sometimes 100 grand a month to 350 a month when I left.
You left and it was 350 a month?
Yep.
Wow, so tripled.
Yeah, and it's not all because of me. Like there's support from managers and the new people we brought in.
I doubt that, mate.
Come on, mate, it's all you.
And the manager on the other side was good. Fiona, who's got her own recruitment company as well, Fiona Watson. She did accountancy and finance, and I did civil construction, building, or engineering firms, and she was great to work with, so she helped me out a lot. And then they asked me to come back to the Brisbane office to manage Queensland, like technical and operations, like construction and engineering stuff. But I'd been coming back for meetings every month, but I hadn't really picked up on the vibe of it's like massive now. I was just coming in saying g'day to people going to a meeting, and then I'd say bye and go back to the Gold Coast, which was about 20 odd staff at the time. By this time, the Brisbane business had grown. It was like had 3 offices in the city, and there was like 140 recruiters or something.
Within the 4 years you've been there?
Yeah, and more. Like they went into North Queensland. They got like 6 offices up there now. But this is before they had Ipswich or Chermside. But I basically came in on the first day and I was like, this is exciting. Got more responsibility across the state, and then sat there for like a few days and just went, it's not for me. It was really big. It wasn't the vibe I wanted. So someone had been chasing me to work for them, and I rang him up and said, time's right. So that was when I went and worked for Talent 2.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was just going through all your work history and having a look at the different agencies you've worked at over the last 20 years.
This is the longest job I've had,
Mate.
employing myself.
Yeah.
Because when I started with this company, I knew the boss was a dickhead and I prepared for it.
At Talent 2?
No, 40-20.
Straight over your head.
Craig sneezed me. Where is he?
Oh, mate.
Yeah,
that's
so
gold.
that I don't want to skip too
skip,
far
move
ahead.
around, yeah.
But what? So you were in recruitment for 15 years, and then what made you go, I'm going to do this for myself?
Well, I actually, when I was at Talent 2, I was recruiting for a project management firm, and I was there. I was doing pretty well. I said I wanted to just be a recruiter for a while, not be a manager, and I did that for 6 months. Then I built a team, and so I built up a good team, and I was recruiting for a client, and they're like, oh, we really like working with you. We've actually got like a recruitment company, like a brand and a website and everything, and we want to start a recruitment company. And they basically just wooed me into going and running that. So I left Talent 2 to go work with these guys.
What was it about Talent 2? Because a lot of heavy hitters are coming out of that as well.
Talent 2, yeah, it's good, really good business.
Yep.
So that was like the new coming of Morgan and Banks. So Morgan and Banks was one of the foundation. So I feel really blessed to like go Hayes, then Talent 2, basically Morgan and Banks. My first 2 jobs in recruitment because I learned a lot.
The best.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, I mean, not everyone can be amazing, but like there's a lot of really bloody good recruiters that I learned a lot from in my first 6 years. And then like I went and worked for a client-funded recruitment company. I was basically the boss, but they owned 90% of it and I owned 10% of it, and did the same stuff, civil construction, a bit of building, bit of resources. And that was a departure. It was good fun though, but I never owned enough of it to be like, it's mine.
Yeah.
And I worked for Queensland Racing for 6 months as well. And then we went to Sydney. My wife and I, Sarah, shout out to her, she's awesome. Went to Sydney for her work, and I went back to Talent 2. So I worked there for 2 years in Sydney again. And then eventually...
What's Sydney recruitment like?
It's probably more like big city recruitment. Like a lot of the people there from London or places like that. So there's a bit more of that vibe of it's cutthroat and you got to know what you're doing. A lot more like facade and looking the part. Like I think not as much substance, probably a little bit more focused on style down there. And that's not for everyone. Like I work with some of the best recruiters in Sydney as well. I learned a lot from some people down there like Graham Whelan is like one of Greg Savage's best mates. They started a company together. Like he's one of the pioneers of recruitment in Australia. He was in that office working with me for 2 years.
In Hayes?
No, in Talent 2.
Talent 2.
Yeah. Oh. So that was a really good experience. And there's some awesome people down there. Different vibe, pretty much all executive search, like retained work. Brisbane Talent 2, there was a bit of executive search and retained work, but it was probably a mix of contingent and that, whereas Sydney was predominantly like search, pay us money up front. And I still do a bit of both. Like I don't believe you should do one or the other exclusively. Depends on the circumstances, the relationships you've got with the clients and how deep you are in your niche.
But mate, you've even got you've got retained clients for the year.
Yeah, we've moved away from that model.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because someone ends up falling out.
Well, no, it sounds selfish, but no matter what you charge and no matter how you model it, like it really isn't like as lucrative as temp and perm traditional agency recruitment. So I had all the right intentions and all the best
What's this?
ideas.
I think we should put some context on this. What are we talking about? What do you mean
so-
retain
This
to
was
the
a couple
year?
of years ago.
Yeah. When I first started the company, like I love marketing, I love BD, I love recruitment. So that was like the three things I was like, I'm just going to do the things I love, and companies will get me in, and I'll be like one of those things for them one day a week or half a day a week, or maybe I can do all three, depends on what they need. And I did that probably for the first 18 months. I did that for a bunch of different clients.
So you charge them like a monthly retainer?
Yeah,
And
usually
you
just
work
a
for them one day a week?
half a day, daily or a daily rate,
Yeah,
forecast
gotcha.
it out.
Okay.
Still do some placement work.
Yep.
But yeah, like it was good. Like it was interesting. It was different. I think they probably end up treating you like a staff member, which is good in some ways, but then they also expect a lot.
For nothing.
Well, yeah, in a way. Like I kept putting my prices up for all the new customers, and when I ran the numbers, it still didn't work out that it was viable. I think it's good for all recruiters to like look at alternative services that they can offer. And I heard Natasha Lee from Resourceful talking about some of the stuff they do, and like we've done similar things in the past. So yeah, I think you have an open mind if you want to help a client. So what we do now is we do temp and perm recruitment, but we do those other things just as a value add. We don't even charge for them. If they want help with the BD strategy, if they want help to like develop their unique value proposition or their values as a company, we help them run those processes just as a value add. So it's and other recruiters can do that too. Like there's no reason they can't. Like recruiters have got amazing transferable skills, and often they probably underestimate themselves. But so a lot of our clients we are recruiting for every week, but when they get stuck, for strategy or BD or something to do with marketing or branding, we come in and help them out. People and culture initiatives, team building. So we've done some pretty big team building days for massive projects as they launch. So that's been exciting. So I go in and I'll MC the day, have catering and we have like a bunch of like team building exercises and get to know your stuff. And
That's
it's good
awesome,
to,
mate.
it's
Just
good to break
embedding
it up.
yourself in their business.
Yeah. And it's good to break up the recruitment, because it can be a grind sometimes. So you're doing a little bit of different stuff, keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
And you've seen some like big dogs start from nothing and obviously build up internally within a good company and go out and start their own businesses. What makes a good recruiter?
I think most people understand the process. They know what it requires. And I'd say like 80% of them probably got the talent and the intellect to do it. The difference is just the application of the talent. Just so many recruiters, they love talking about it. They just don't do it. They don't do enough.
And how do you be that 500K biller? You're getting consistent, but you need like the mill. Just how do you get there?
The constant application.
Yeah.
Like it's how difficult, like the process is simple, but it's also the nuance throughout the process. So it's like job in from a client, we got to find some candidates and then we fill, we interview obviously and then we fill the job. It sounds pretty simple, but like throughout that process, it's humans dealing with humans about other humans. Like everything's moving and thinking and changing its mind. So like with experience, you judge, you can predict things are going off track and that becomes easier. That's all just a time in the seat thing. But what you can do from day one is you can apply your talents like with drive and motivation. Like no one can ever take that away from you. If you're willing to make more calls than anybody else, you'll succeed. And then as you add experience and maturity and the nuance understanding into that, you just become like an absolute weapon because you don't lose the drive and the numbers. And I never measure staff from KPIs. I have like an instinctive understanding if they're doing enough, and you'll know if you meet a good recruiter, as will you. If they're doing enough, you just know. And then it's about, you're better off to having like a renegade that's got no idea and they just go, I'm going to smash the phone.
Well, mate, that's how everyone has good wins when they start because they got no idea. They end up billing awesome in their first 3 months.
Yeah.
And then they dip out on month 4 and 5 and go, is this for me? Geez, I don't know if it is.
You just want to I think you want to hone those skills and add little bits of take the rough edges off, but you don't want them to ever lose that
Dog mentality.
Psycho dog. And the underdog thing is really good. Like you always want to be like a bit of an underdog and know where you've come from. I think a lot of recruiters, with all due respect, I love recruitment. It can change your life. And I've got a lot of love for recruiters as well, but a lot of them can become a bit entitled and a bit soft as they get more experienced.
Yeah.
And they drop off on the activity. They take relationships for granted. And you can't. Like if you get complacent, then
someone will beat you.
Yeah, and fair play to them. If they're willing to put the effort in, then they deserve to beat you.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so let's go back to
Forklifts, no.
Hats. No, so let's go back to you were in recruitment 15 years and then you started your own gig 5 years ago, 40/20.
Yep.
Why, after 15 years, did you decide to start your own thing?
I
Did a
should've-
light bulb go off? Was it a circumstance? Was it a particular point in time? What clicked for you to go?
I probably should have
I'm
done
doing
it earlier. Obviously, I should have done it earlier, but I just wanted to take, because my experience is I've worked in agency. I've also worked directly for construction companies. So like I actually felt like I understand what the clients want because I've been the client and I've been a candidate for sure. And I'm a recruiter. And I was like, well, I understand all three aspects pretty well. How can I apply that to like a fun money making venture that I want to do for a long time, you know? And originally it was like I like marketing, I love BD, and I love recruitment. So my company will be all about that stuff. And it still is. Like at its heart and soul, it's still about those three things. But yeah, I probably should have started earlier. But I never set out to be a big company. So like with Hayes, I rebuilt a team to about 10. Talent 2, built a team to 10, both times at Talent 2. And so my thing was like I'm going to build a business with it like a team of 10. I don't have like delusions of grandeur or wanted to take on the big boys or have multiple offices. I'm not interested in that. I think, that start with why.
Mate, you can make a lot of money with a small team.
Yeah, a small team of motivated, driven people that know what they're doing. And it's easy to manage. Like it's much easier to lead. You can be more supportive. You can be there for them. So it doesn't get so big that you're constantly looking at what's next and the growth and new offices and all those distractions. You actually focus on the doing. And I think that's where some recruiters and recruitment companies get a bit distracted from like the ego stuff and the sexy stuff and the growth without just, bedding down what they've got and growing organically when you have the right people. Yeah. They'll just present themselves at the right time.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say, so what did you do? So when you resigned, did you set up your business? Because we speak to a lot of recruiters, and some recruiters want to start their own thing. Some recruiters love their boss and never want to leave.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of reasons why people either stay working for their boss or want to start their own thing. And a lot of feedback that I'm getting at the moment is, I don't know if it's the right time. I got my next comms check coming. I got the next staff incentive coming. I might win Biller of the Year. I'm going to buy a new house soon. I need to stay as an employee, all this kind of stuff. So I was interested to understand how you made the transition between being a recruiter working for someone and then going, I don't know, maybe you set your website up and then you got all your ducks in a row and then you pulled the pin and jumped straight away, or you took 4 months off and you slowly kind of worked into it, or how did you
So
work
I worked for Penzar Infrastructure locally, so like a construction company for them for 3 years, and I ended up general manager of new business, which was marketing, BD and recruitment. Perfect. But then I got made redundant there. It was cool, amicable. Still got a great relationship with the people at Penzar. But in the interim, I went and took a job as a general manager of the go-to people for Queensland, which was like trades and labour, registered training organisation, and they were doing a bit of white-collar recruitment. And I thought, they're paying me a lot of money. This will be cool. They had plans to be a listed company. Let's see what happens with this. And like you couldn't really ask for much more in a role. It was a good team, great role. And I was just like, I wasn't happy, didn't really love it. And I was like, what's missing? And it's like when you can put your own stamp on a company and really brand it in your light, there's nothing more thrilling than doing that. And you take the wins and the losses, but you wear it, you cop it on the chin, you get up and you go again. And like, you can never be more motivated than that feeling. And I've always been motivated, and I've made other people a lot of money. And I've recruitment changed my life. Like I'm really blessed. I mean, when I started at Hayes, like I went from a 40K per annum, no bonus job to 40K for the first 3 months guaranteed. And then I dropped back to 23K base. So I had to make commission after 3 months. Otherwise I was going to be, and I had a mortgage on a townhouse at that stage.
Base.
Yeah.
Holy shit. But I think
23K base.
Yeah, it's 21 years ago.
Yeah,
so.
True.
But that still didn't get you a lot back then.
But all those little random jobs you did, I think that's all character building.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So I did fruit picking. I worked in restaurants and bars. I think people that work in hospitality usually it's character building as well, and they know how to deal with people. They've got emotional intelligence. They can hopefully communicate. So I think there's a few industries where like it actually segues neatly into recruitment.
And how do you, I know when we spoke, you only hire recruiters that have recruitment experience.
Well, we did. And like the first 6 are all that. They're all agency and internal recruitment experience. And then we've taken Vicky on, no experience in recruitment at all, like not internal or agency. And she's 6 months in and like killing it.
Yeah.
And she's she's transitioning back to the workforce, like can do 3.5 days a week. We've provided a really flexible and supportive platform to her. And she's seen the opportunity for what it is, and she's grabbed it with both hands. And her drive and like
she's a recruiter for 3.5 days a week.
yeah, really proactive.
How does that go?
How does that go?
It's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah. So we've got 7 staff, and only 3 are full-time permanents, 4 are part-time,
Right.
flexible
Really?
working arrangements. Yeah. If you find an awesome person, take as many hours as you can get. That's always been my theory.
Yeah, but what
Yeah,
happens on the
right.
days off when a candidate needs to call and they're trying to?
How do you work
There's
that?
give and take. Yeah, there's definitely give and take. But like with
So they're working full-time hours, but you're just paying them on part-time.
no, you could look at it that way.
I'm just joking.
No, but you could.
You're throwing stones, mate.
You could be cynical. But no, I think like all those arrangements have got to
Because
be
mate, like
give and take.
we were chatting in the office the other day, and I'm all for it. If we can make this 4-day work week, mate, that would be sick. I don't think works because recruitment's a grind, mate.
Yeah.
You need some time off.
But if there's something vital to do,
You
and
get it
if-
done.
And it's Saturday, you do it. If it's
Yeah.
Sunday, you do it. But then if you want to flex off and do something with the kids, Monday Arvo, you do it as well. So I look at it, it's a 7-day-a-week career, but you just fit in what you need to fit in around that.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty good.
when
Good
there's
way to
no
do it.
glass ceiling to your earning, like you can earn 200 to 500 grand working for someone else. That's not as an owner. That's as a staff member. Like there's not many opportunities or vocations or careers, whatever you want to call it, that are like a wealth creation vehicle. It's not just a job.
And that's why I don't understand why, like obviously it's a lot easier to market real estate, for example. It can be super glamorous. You're walking through a multi-million-dollar home.
Yep.
You're getting in your Beamer or your Merc, and everyone wants to go into real estate. But recruitment is Monday to Friday. It changes lives.
It's
Like
way better hours.
way better hours. Like there's so many positives. Yet you go through school and no one talks about recruiters.
No.
Yet your teachers in school are actually trying to recruit you for the type of position. So like recruitment's used to connect everyone.
Constantly, yeah.
Yeah. But
I mean,
no
we
one ever
all
talks
use
about
it. Like we were recruiting people for our footy team, or recruit people to go out to the club you want to go out to on the Friday night instead of the one that your mate wants to. Like everyone's selling, everyone's recruiting in some way when they're bloody in prep. Probably,
When I was trying to close D, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Was that a retained assignment? No. But yeah, I think it needs to be like, but it needs to be realistically portrayed too. Like there is some fun and there's some glamour, and you can like sprinkle that across everything you do in recruitment. But there's some grind, there's some hard work as well.
Oh, 100%. But that's like in real estate. I think most people get a false pretense.
I think real estate's 90% people think it's glamorous and don't realize most of it's really grueling hard work. But in recruitment, no one thinks it's glamorous and no one knows it's hard work. It's almost like it's almost not existent or spoken about in general. Like who proactively goes, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a recruiter? I don't think anyone.
No, everyone falls into it.
Yep.
But then you get it. You're like, oh, I found my place.
This podcast is going to change all of that though. Young children listening to this on Spotify in their grade 4 lesson, because their teacher's going to be all about it.
Absolutely.
Eventually will become a catalyst.
We're going to run some Confessions of a Recruiter ad on some Thomas the Tank Engine YouTube before the Thomas the Tank before the videos roll up. It'll be some Confessions of a Recruiter podcast action, and we'll try and start getting into the minds of the kids.
Oh, I think it's got to happen.
Well, I genuinely believe it's a great opportunity. Like, and I'm not making it up. It's not bullshit. Like, it changed my life, and so I'm still fired up and passionate about it. And when I talk to people about recruitment, I talk about it like it is a great thing to do, and it can be that for anybody. I'm not special.
But then why do we have so much dropout?
Turnover.
Yeah. So like I think Greg Savage. Do you know Greg Savage?
Yep.
What do you think of him?
Greg's a fool. If he thinks I don't agree with most of the things he talks about. No, it's funny. Like often he'll post stuff, and we've been talking about it in the office. My only fear with that is that the advice is generally really good. If everyone goes to like a session with him and they all basically just regurgitate what he does, the way he does it, then everyone is the same. So if you don't apply your own personality and style to it, so follow the structure and like the basics of it, but you got to apply your own charisma and personality. Otherwise, that's when the work becomes hard. If you're a recruiter and you work in the city and you're expected to wear a suit and you don't like suits and you're supposed to be Mr. Corporate, and you don't like it, then you're going to be shit at recruitment. You want to find sectors that you align with and you enjoy, and then they suit your personality and your style. So I'd be no good at like finance, recruitment, that executive sort of stuff wouldn't suit me. So I'm lucky I fell into my sector, which is really down to earth. And it just suits me. So I think I'd say this to candidates when they go for a job interview: don't go there and be like the robot perfect version of yourself, because you'll get a job that you don't actually like, and then they'll hire someone that they think is going to be like that every day. When you start being yourself 2 weeks in, they're like, who's this lunatic? And no one's happy. So you got to go along and be realistic if the job is going to suit you in the company, and portray an accurate reflection of who you are, and then you'll find companies and people to work with and jobs that you'll like and they're probably more sustainable. So a lot of this whole prepping for interviews and like being like this super version of yourself, if you can't sustain that, what's the point? It's got to be sustainable.
It's so overshot. Would you know a better way? Like obviously interviewing, most candidates are 5 times better than what they are. How would you find a better way to actually understand a person before you hire them without getting them to a trial? Yeah,
I think it's a lot of it comes down to intuition, but like there is ways that you can test them. But I think like some of the personality psychometric stuff is what it is. It's pretty prescriptive, and I suppose it's more scientific. Most of the time, the clients that have got good attraction rates and really good retention rates, it's more instinctive. Like they know the values that they believe in, and they ask questions around the values in the interviews. Like not so much if they ask behavioural questions, it's to demonstrate a value. So it's not always character building, the work we do, but like it's character revealing. That's a Greek Savage thing.
But he'd be a fool if you didn't agree with it.
He is a fool.
But he was saying 50% of recruiters bail within the 6 months.
Is it? Yep.
Yep. And then out of that 50%, 80% never make a career of it.
And 87% of statistics are made up. No, I think what we do is when we talk to recruiters, we've had a lot of people, I'd rather they bail before they join us. And that's happened a lot recently. Like we probably had 4 people we offered and 3 of them bailed, because I'm really honest with what is expected. I don't sugarcoat it. I say like, yeah, you can have a lot of fun, you can make a lot of money, but there's a journey to get to that point. And if you want to be great, then you want to work somewhere where you can be great. But if you want to just make a wage and sort of plod along, go work somewhere else.
I've got a question.
That's handy because
we're all recruitment agency owners. I have been for maybe the last 3 to 4 months actively trying to find recruiters with experience to join Vendito. I've never ever hired anybody with recruitment experience in my business over the last 5-6 years. I've actually got one guy starting on Monday. He worked at Frontline in hospitality.
Yeah.
So big grind.
Yep.
So he seems pretty promising. Hopefully he's still going to turn up. It's been, I think the start date was like 8 weeks from when I offered him the job. And I thought,
I've been asking every week, is he started?
Mate, I've been texting him every 2 weeks. Hey, mate, are you still 100%? He's like, yeah, mate, don't worry, it's all good. But
just go to his house on Monday, pick him up,
get him on a push bike. Yeah.
So hopefully he's still going to turn up. But no, he seems really good. But this is going to be the first guy that I've recruited with recruitment experience. And generally, I find it hard to attract people or find someone that's suitable for our business with recruitment experience. What do you do in your business? Because you've said before you just only recruit for people with experience.
We did until
just you got
now.
7. You got 6 people with recruitment experience.
How did you find them? Were you like DMing people? Was it a C card? What are you doing to find recruiters?
That's interesting because I think
Is it Joel's magic?
No, not at all. Like most of them I've known in some way, shape or form previously.
Yeah, okay.
One's my wife, but she still agreed to come and work with me. But I think they're probably getting approached by a lot of people.
Yep.
And they're probably getting sold the dream by a lot of recruitment owners, company owners, that sort of thing. So they're probably a little bit skeptical or cynical.
Another one.
The beers are here.
Holy. Deck is having his
second
second
beer.
You must be feeling
I'll
good,
just have
mate.
a little one.
Oh, boy.
We're gonna do the joke. That's which camera? Which camera? Supermodel.
Oh, did it? Yeah. Here
That's
we go.
named
Over
after
here.
Declan. It's a supermodel.
Nah, it's called weak as piss.
It is a mid-strength, yeah. I think it's tricky to lure experienced recruiters away from where they are unless there's something really
No, but why would you
has
leave?
changed.
Because like I've heard from mates that have that left recruiters. So you go to another recruitment agency, you're competing in the same space. You then join another recruitment agency, you're both recruiting, and then but someone else is dealing with your client. So all these people you think you can bring over, you can't.
Yeah, or you just create another competitor for yourself by like you go out and start your own, and then someone keeps the client at your previous employer. And who knows, they might keep half the ones that you've walked away from. Some might follow you, but it really depends on how strong the relationships are. Like, I mean, look, as you said, I waited 15, 16 years in before I moved. So the depth of the relationships,
You would have some solid
I could bank on that. But like you guys went out on your own really early. So like, good on you. You had bigger balls than me.
Okay, so you knew most of the recruiters before starting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I've had a real issue trying to get, well, not a real issue. I haven't talked to that many, but I would say like, talking to agency recruiters, I talk to them and I go, I'll actually say to them, there's no reason to leave.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, stay where you are. You're being looked
Bit of
after.
reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Hey.
But also, I say, they go, I'm going well. Tell me what you're billing. And they'll always obviously fudge it. And I go, well,
5 times more.
that's not.
So what do you look for in a
You can
recruiter?
bill more than that.
Is there anything in particular you look for in a recruiter when you're hiring for your business?
We found like at Hayes, we were doing this. And when I interviewed people, I'd say like, tell us about the toughest thing that's ever happened to you in your life. And then if it was like one day they went to like the vending machine and there was no creaming soda, they had a tantrum, then they won't make a good recruiter. Like a lot of the best recruiters I've ever worked with had like some pretty serious adversity that they overcame early in their life, and often a few times, and more often than not, it wasn't their choice. It wasn't through bad decisions, that was really like, because when the shit hits the fan and like the chips are down, they wouldn't just fold. And that's really been a strong thing for us. Like,
Yeah, I asked that too.
yeah. And it's you get some really good stories, and like, they often are more vulnerable. You feel like you get to know them better anyway, even if they don't come and work for you. Like
Do you remember the most hectic answer?
Yeah, mate. You got some after 20 years of recruitment.
What
are your war stories, mate?
There was actually some people that we didn't hire at Hayes that were like, there were some hectic answers. And we were like, fuck, you probably need to
See a psychologist.
yeah,
not a
like get
recruiter.
some actual help, because
Yeah, okay.
it was like, fuck. I didn't think they'd share that, but there was, but yeah, like I think like, with abundance and success, parents create like a pretty safe and secure environment for their kids. So like the second and third generation coming from like decent
Wealth.
upbringing, they're not going to have a lot of adversity. So if the first adversity that they face is day one of recruitment and they get told no, they could melt under the pressure. So you want to find out what it is early on. And even it's changing schools is a very small example, or moving away from where you grew up to a whole new location when you're in grade
Moving out of home when you're
8, 9 or
18.
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like those things, they're dramatic in a way, and at the time they're huge, and it's how you rebound from those things. Like even parents that get divorced when you're young, how you deal with that. A lot of those things like add up. And if people have a few of those things, you generally can say that they've built some character early on, which pays off later in life in more ways than just in recruitment. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, you got to trust your intuition. Like but you got to talk to them a lot too. So if someone's not willing to invest like 3 or 4 conversations in considering going and working for a recruitment company, I'm sort of like, we need to make sure it's good for you as well as for us. And that tells
So you have 4 interviews with them.
depends on the person. If they want to talk to me more, I'll talk to them more, because I want to make sure it's right for them. And if it's not, I want to point them towards other
And do you
people.
go to like different situations, like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
taking for coffee, dinner? Did you
definitely.
ever involve their partner in the process?
No, but we get them to like, they can talk to people that work for us already, and they can ask anything they want of those people. They can ask about me. They can ask about what's good, what's bad, whatever. Because we're warts and all. Like, we're not perfect. No company, no human is perfect. So why pretend you are? And that's obviously that scares off some people. But I'd rather they get scared off early than turn up and then fold after 2 or 3 months. So I think we need to sell like what's great about recruitment. We need to sell honestly how it is hard, but how rewarding and fulfilling it is, and lucrative. and then you'll get more people interested in it. But then you got to basically
What makes it so hard?
knock them out of the process early. If you don't think they're right, just like trust your instincts. If you're like, oh, I don't know, just go no.
Yeah.
You know so quick, mate. You hire someone, you know on the first day.
Yeah,
you lie to yourself that they're going to work out.
Yeah.
And you get into week 1 month, and you just end up going, shit, this is not working.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and like it's interesting when you're actually a nice person that sees the best in everybody else. You want to give them a chance, but then if you're
downfall.
if you're a business owner, you probably have to be a bit more clinical and more commercial and a bit more of a prick. But I don't know. I'd rather hire some duds in the future and give people a crack than be too much of an asshole. So I don't know. You find a balance, though. You find an equilibrium.
I think it's a forever evolving journey of hiring people for your business. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where you're like, yep, I know how to do this. Even for me, I have hired so many people. We've got, 7 staff at the moment. So our burn rate's pretty high, but we've got 7 guns right now. So pretty happy with that. But
what's a gun in your mind?
Someone that adds value to the culture, contributes to their billings, looks after the other team members, more thoughtful about the people around them. A gun doesn't have to just be a big biller.
It's holistic. Yeah.
It's more of just an overall, are they adding value to the people around them? Do they care? Are they considerate? Stuff like that. And I still think I'm really hit or miss thinking, oh shit, is this person all right? Or should I give this guy a crack? What about the biggest thing that surprised you about starting your own agency? Is there anything in particular that you thought, I really wasn't expecting this?
Like the support was really gratifying. Like the support from a lot of people was really, so I've thought of myself as the underdog, trying to, punch up and fight the fight. But then when people actually are really supportive of you, you kind of go, oh, that's, it's really nice.
And it feels good when you don't even know people are watching.
Yeah,
and you just get a random message and be like, mate, proud of you.
Yeah,
going out
exactly.
on your own.
And
That's
like
really
word of mouth
chord.
referral is like the biggest endorsement you can ever get. And so people will just ring you randomly and say, oh, old mate told me that you're great and I need some help. And he said to ring you. And you're just like, that's cool. Like, yeah, you got some work on. But it's almost that conversation's enough in itself. Even if you didn't take a job on and fill it for the money, just getting that reinforcement early days is really valuable. Because you can get into imposter mode and you can question things, have a couple of bad days especially when it's just
you get that early on,
stuff.
imposter syndrome? Do I deserve to be here?
I still have. I'm 47, so I talk openly about, mental health struggles and things like that. Like I think everybody should be more honest with each other, more vulnerable, more real and raw, and talk to experts. Like they know what they're bloody doing. Like your mates can be helpful, but your mates aren't equipped with a lot of the tools to help you. So I think, are you okay, Day? I understand the idea behind it, but I think we don't want to be
that every day.
We don't want to be okay anyway. We want to be fucking awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
So, and I think there's been literally twice in the last decade where I've struggled and I've gone and seen an expert, and it's the best money I've ever spent on myself,
mate.
And it's like they snap you out of it and they give you some real tools to work with.
What do they do? They just kind of talk you through things and make you realise that things aren't so bad?
The first thing that they do is they come at it from an unbiased angle. So they basically give you a safe space to talk and you share what's going on. And majority of the time, humans will catastrophize things in their own mind. And it's never as bad as what we think. And that's from birth to when you're an adult, and a bit of that fight or flight mentality. You kind of always been on edge because you're in your DNA, you're worrying about drinking this cool, refreshing water from there's a bloody mountain lion. So that's in our DNA, and we're always judging every situation, but we judge ourselves most harshly. And I think that can be motivating. It can really drive you to be successful, but sometimes you're never, ever satisfied. That one thing with recruitment, it's never ending because you can always call more candidates or more clients. So never ending is a positive, but it's also a negative. So often a lot of it's common sense, but they really have the tools and the equipment. If it is a really heavy situation, they can deal with that really well. Majority of the time for me, I've sacrificed my exercise regime or just quiet time, whether it's meditating or any of that stuff. If I've cut corners on that stuff, it accumulates to me being a bit like frazzled. So if I stick to like that, like the routine, and everyone will have a different routine. But if it sounds selfish, but I've got to exercise, look after myself first, and then I can be the best dad and the best husband, then the
That's
best,
what I'm like,
then the
mate.
best recruiter.
Hey, we were
But it
just
goes-
talking about this, like before you got here, we were just talking about gym. And I have always been a morning gym person. I was a really heavy gym person before starting my own business.
Yep.
When we started in recruitment, we were
We were jacked.
jacked. We were shredded.
yeah. We
It's
were
just
looking
like-
real good when we started in recruitment. And then we started in recruitment and you train in the morning.
You still do, fellas. That was my opportunity.
Oh, thanks,
on,
mate.
mate.
He's so thoughtful.
Yeah.
And we were just talking before where now if we train in the morning, we're so cooked all day. We
Yep.
can't even like function properly.
Yeah, okay.
But after a full day of work, we're just too exhausted. to
No,
go to
we
the
could do
gym.
it when we were working for someone else, but now
Running
Yeah,
your own
kids,
business,
having your own
kids,
business,
yeah.
like mate, it just drags you down.
I find it
Put
really
yourself
hard.
last in
And you
all
know how
ways.
like excitement and stress is triggered in your body as the same feeling?
Mm.
So I get really excited about things like stuff that's happening at work, and then I just get sick.
Yeah, he literally gets fully run down because
Fully
he's
sick.
he's super
Just
excited
gets
about
amped,
something.
and then like,
Yeah, that's what happens.
Hey, it's really weird. I can't seem to find the time to be consistent with my training.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've tried a few times. I paid this PT like $400 a week just so I would have to commit to doing 4 PT sessions a week. I did that for maybe 2 months,
Yep.
and then I fell off the bandwagon. But I can't seem to find anything
How
consistent.
much sleep do you get at night?
Heaps.
Yep.
I go to bed at 8.
Yep. And what
Wake
time
up
do you
at
wake
4, 4:30.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good amount of sleep.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know.
Interesting.
What's
Hydration? What's your hydration like?
Man, I pump like 4 or 5 liters of water
Okay.
a day. I feel like I've got a lot of good habits,
Yeah, yeah.
but
they
I
are
just
both good
can't
habits.
get the blood pumping when I
Yep.
The
maybe
want.
it's just lazy.
Maybe because you got a missus, mate. When you're single, you just all you care about is finding
True.
the gym.
It's Kat's fault. it's my girlfriend's fault that I look like this. All right, good. Yeah,
But she's
that's a good
happy,
plan.
so
She's happy.
she's happy. Then
She
yeah.
could be happier.
She could be much happier. Yeah. So what do you do? What's your remedy there for sticking to your routine,
I think
training?
you got to like be. I think fit, healthy after the gym. Like you say, like you're tired. I mean, that's interesting to me. Like I tend to be like, I'll have a bit of a flat day if I didn't exercise in the morning. But I mean, everyone's different. But I think you got to work out a system.
And what's
where-
your jam when it comes to exercising?
Oh, I'm like Mr. Variety. Like I don't have like one thing. So
Do you got no memberships anywhere?
no, I got like we've got a
Ah.
pretty groovy setup at home with like body weight, like monkey bars and dip bars and chin ups
Okay.
and stuff. But
Yeah.
kettlebells. But I'll run, ride my bike, boxing. Was doing jiu-jitsu. Haven't done that this year because of some injuries. But
What'd you get up
I
to?
really like it. My
What belt?
elbows are jacked up. No, mainly no
No
gi.
gi.
Yeah, I was like a good white belt, but I never bothered with the gradings. My 9-year-old daughter's probably more of a weapon on the mats, to be honest. She's pretty good. But yeah, I like variety. I find if you go to the same venue every day doing similar stuff, that can become a bit of a grind. So I like to mix it up and do a bit of variety. Like me and the wife and the 2 kids go for one boxing session a week together.
That's pretty
I
cool.
block that time out of my calendar. So straight after work on Mondays, we all go to boxing because I can always do work later to make up that time. But that's kind of priceless as far as I'm concerned. Because I grew up, like my dad was in the construction industry and he was just absent the whole time. So, but his dad stepped up. So my granddad was really present and I saw the value of like just someone being there for the time, going to sport or just being able to talk to you and not like, oh, I've got to go to work. But that's also a challenge is like the half-assing it, like half working, half being a parent. Like, and that was
You
a
end up
journey
so
for me.
worse off.
But now I like try to be like one or the other. Don't half-ass both jobs. So like have some rules and structure around not looking at your phone at certain times because you're with your kids. And like we're not doing heart surgery. No one's going to die if you don't answer the phone for 2 hours because you're with your kids. Then you check it a bit later on and you can respond to people. I think, having a structure that works for you, everyone's different, but like sticking to it. Because if you get the non-recruitment stuff right, you become a better recruiter anyway.
Yeah, and that's when you do you float through your 100K months and you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I work 40, 35 hours a week, you bill 100K. And then the months when you're not doing your shit, you're coming home, you're on the phone at night time.
You're burnt out.
You're burnt
Yeah.
out.
And
You're
you have a
struggling to
shit
build
month.
20K.
Isn't it interesting? Like,
Yeah, nice.
Everything
like
feels like
I've-
a grind.
like the last 2 years have been like my probably third biggest and first biggest personal billing years ever. And that's like there's been boom and bust in my industry for like 21 years, not just because of the market conditions. So, and I think it's mainly because I've just got the system right, what works for me, how the week looks, and then I know instinctively if I haven't done enough of certain activity, the next day I pick that up. And like every week you got to be doing BD, candidate interviews, floating candidates, market research, account management of existing clients. You can't have any week where you don't do one of the most important aspects of being a recruiter. There's a lot of recruiters that go full BD mode for 2 weeks, then they go, oh, I've got some jobs on, just do delivery, ignore their other clients, don't do any cold calling, and it all falls off a cliff. You just got to constantly do a bit of everything.
And what would you say? Because we're going through a bit of like in our team, they're like a lot of them are new to recruitment, so they're going through that understanding phase. They're punching well above their weight. They're doing better in recruitment than when I started, and it's so it's awesome to see. But they're in that transition stage where they get their 5-6 jobs on. They sort of hang on to them. It gets to week 4. They've had some offers. They've had some counter offers. Counter offers are sort of killing the team at the moment with how often they're happening.
Yeah.
So then, how would you get them to say they're sort of gripping onto those 6 jobs? I'm like, guys, we need 10. Let's keep the BD going. So, like, how would you?
One incentive is imagine if you've got 20 jobs on, and one falls off because they get counter offered and you lose it. It's literally like you go, who cares? Because like if your average fee is 20 grand and you got 20 jobs on, that's 400K of billings. So you lose a couple, you're still at 320. More than that. Sorry, bad maths. 360. You're still going. That's
and
a
out
really
of those
good,
20 jobs, like surely most of them are contingent.
It depends. I actually prefer contingent these days.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
Because we flipped it because I was getting sick of getting my time wasted.
Yeah, but like it depends how well you know your clients and how you can qualify them at the start. So like I'm talking about long-term partnerships, reliable customers.
Okay. Oh yeah, of course. I've got like handshake agreements that are my best customers that I started.
But new customers, every first role is retained.
Yeah.
And if they engage well and they communicate well and it's just a proper partnership with the same values, then you go contingent.
Yeah.
And that's predominantly like if we've got 40 jobs on as a team, we've probably got 5 retainers, 35 contingent.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and I get it, like whatever works for whatever works. But there's sectors at the moment where if you retain your client, you cannot guarantee you're going to fill the job because there's such a shortage of candidates. So it's a bit of either be really honest with the client and tell them what it's like and back yourself to fill it and say, look, I'm going to back myself, but I'm not going to charge you a retainer up front. Like you got to know, people say, oh, but that's a waste of my time. But if you get a retainer up front and you put time into it and you don't fill it, it's a waste of everyone's time. You've just got a bit of compensation for your time and no result. My integrity says to me that's a worse result for everyone. So you just got to choose your battles wisely of when you retain, when you don't. I find a lot of recruiters get a certain number of retainers and they go, oh, that's enough. But it doesn't guarantee you're going to place all those roles. So I think the intensity of contingent or contract recruitment applied with the quality of a retained search is the perfect storm. It's a little bit of the intensity and adrenaline of contracting and contingent and that manic, like I don't want to lose with a bit of the polish and professionalism of, executive search, retained work. Okay. So, but yeah, with those people, like they just need more jobs on. And and that's the way you pitch to them. You say, like, if you had 10 jobs on and that one got counter-offered, you'd feel a lot better about it because you just tell them what the rate, like that 10 jobs is worth 180 grand to you. Like we want you to do 150 a quarter or whatever it is. You'd be above target and talk them through it. So you make it numbers. And if you make the numbers actually more meaningful to them personally, so that goes back to gym sales. It was always like, so are you willing to sacrifice one cafe coffee a day to have the beach body that you want for summertime? And they're like, yeah. Because it was like $15 a week or whatever back then. And so it's personal for them and the finance is personal. Like they're spending having 3 coffees a day from a cafe, just get rid of one of them. and it's always got to be personalised. So it's not about Vendito or blended or 40-20. It's about we want you to succeed. If you succeed, we succeed. We didn't hire you to fail. So we want you to have more jobs on, not because we're micromanaging you or want to, crack the whip, but if you have attrition in your jobs and counter offers and stuff, the more jobs you got on, the more, you just feel more comfortable. And then you say that it equals this much in billings, which equals this much in your commission. And like, if you do that for a whole year, how does that change your life? And they start thinking more aspirationally rather than like stressing about a placement. They start thinking about like the deposit for their house and like these little activities, the BD calls, it's a deposit for a house. It's not a placement. It's not a commission check.
Yeah, that's what we focus on. So we've got like little vision boards that they all
That's
have,
awesome.
and people have gotten out of debt and wanting to buy cars and booking holidays and all that type of stuff. So I understand that part, but just trying to switch them. So we do a lot of like email automation in our business. That's how we got a lot of leads. But then it's our Achilles heel because it's almost not getting people on the phones because they're just waiting for the perfect client to fall in their lap. They go, oh, it's time to buy. They've sent a job brief, and out of those 6 jobs, they're all retained. So for newbies to be selling retained, like I'm so proud of them.
That's good. Yeah. I mean,
So
when you knew,
get 4 contingents.
Yeah, when you knew, I think you want to have a blend. You want to have blended. So have like a blend of everything because I think they need to know the intensity of like there's competition. But what you want to qualify it again with your client. So getting jobs called in or from emails out, like you're missing a key component of recruitment where you're talking to the client, you're understanding their pressures, how keen they are, how urgent it is, who have they gone out to. Like,
obviously the sales process starts then, but it's just a little bit easier as trying to call a gatekeeper, get through to a decision maker, do all that.
You got to start that from the very first conversation. But I think they might end up going like I've got 15 jobs on. I've had like 5 retainers, 10 contingent, but I've placed 7 of the contingent. They might actually go, I like this. I like the urgency and the intensity of this. And often you put yourself under a bit more pressure. I think sometimes with retained, and I've seen an office full of retained executive search recruiters, they do move slower. And that's fine.
She'll be right mentality.
Yeah, well, they go, I've got the money locked in. I've got a process. I've committed to an 8-week turnaround, whatever. Like we're trying to like turn things around in like 48 hours. So, and that's when you got deep sector knowledge and you have a real focus in a niche, you can fill jobs from your phone over the phone.
Yeah, and that's what's hard with sales recruitment. So, mate, we could be working across, we've refined our industries, but still, like, you could have a role in energy, you could have a role in tech software, you could have a role in building products.
Yep. But when you get to 20 staff, you'll have someone that just does building products and they'll be billing $1 million because they'll end up with such a focus. They'll know every person in Brisbane in building products. And they'll just become the go-to person for building products.
And that's the key to make the most money, hey?
Anyone I talk to that's in recruitment, I see them on LinkedIn, they're like, a construction expert. And then one day they're recruiting for like design people, one day they're recruiting for surveyors, one day it's civil, one day it's building. It's like, and I love talking to them and saying, what do you enjoy most of those sectors? Focus on that, sacrifice a few of the jobs and lift your fill rate. Don't spread yourself so thin because then you won't enjoy it. And that's what I think a lot of the drop off of recruiters is. They are still a generalist, even though they work in like sales, recruitment, whatever, they're still a generalist. And every new job they start from scratch. Whereas if you can't recycle shortlists and you can't use your database and know candidates really well when you get jobs called and you think of people straight away, Blake, Declan, Joel, that's a shortlist for that one. Boom. So like we filled jobs in less than 6 hours in our agency.
Wow.
And that's from the first meeting in the morning at 10 o'clock.
Interview. Terms
signed, ringing an immediately available candidate. Yeah, mate, I can go to the city. Client, can you say, yeah, 3 o'clock? Yep, cool. And they do a deal at the interview.
And then you're the last to find out. That's awesome.
That's fine though.
No, that's the best situation.
Yeah.
We did it, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think like everyone can take on more volume of work than they expect. And until you test yourself, you don't know what you're capable of. Yeah. And some of those people will probably be better recruiters when they've got 20 jobs on because they might create more urgency in them.
Yeah, but there's that. But then also you might get a contingent job. You'll put an ad up or you might talk to a candidate for that job. All of a sudden they might know someone and it fills your hard to fill role that you've been hanging on to with white knuckles for the last 4 weeks. And then just having that extra job changes your life.
Oh, exactly. I think, that's if one takeaway to any recruiter that does bother to listen to this is
Mate, we got heaps.
No matter how focused, but when they see my name, they'll be like, apart from the clickbait, Greg Savage is a fool. We're going to use that. Being like more specialised than they think they should be. Oh yeah, I'm a specialist, and I'm like, just narrow it down, keep narrowing it down. Because then when you're not busy, you go, I'm so specialised. Like you can actually have time off where you don't freak out about having some time off. Like you can call candidates, you can call clients, great. But when you really know the jobs that you should be working on, like sometimes you need to know what you shouldn't be doing to know what you should be doing. And if in a dream world for a recruitment is working in a sector where it suits your personality and your style, and like a narrow focus within that sector of talking to candidates that you get to know really well, build relationships, and you just have like this deep knowledge of it becomes so much easier.
Oh yeah.
So if you're like 25 years in and you're still a generalist, like won't get the most out of recruitment. You will never bill enough, and it'll still be like a grind, like a roller coaster. So I encourage everybody to be like way more specialised than they think they should be.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. I like that.
Thank you.
I think I need to do something like that with my guys. Like my guys are generally specialists. Is that a word?
An oxymoron. Generally specialist.
They're generally specialising.
They're specialty generalists.
They're specialising in being a generalist.
Yeah.
Mate, how many 4 hearts have you had, brother?
Mate, I feel half pissed. Hey, I'm 1.5 beers deep. I've got a light head, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But no, these are great beers, mate.
Oh, excellent.
Where was I going with that? So, so no, like my guys, they generally do like, I'd say 70% of the roles, they focus on one type of position title in one type of industry.
Yep. That's good.
But then maybe 30% are a little bit like riff-raff here and there, left,
10%
right.
left
Yeah,
or right,
just
yep.
a little bit random. So I think if we dial it in a little bit more and take that 30% back into being specialised.
You think about the 70% filling, and then the extra 30% that's like peripheral, maybe distraction stuff. If they just focus that 30% time on networking in the sector they want to do, go to events, BD, account management calls are like neglected massively in recruitment. Like go and see clients that already love you. Like don't neglect them because they love you. Don't take like advantage of that like and get complacent. Go and see them and like appreciate the fact that they will only ever use you. Still go and see them. But like face time is gone from recruitment because of the pandemic, and I don't think we ever did enough of it even before the pandemic. So like all recruiters, like all 3 of us, like we should be doing a lot more face-to-face meetings, like in the flesh, not through a screen.
Oh, mate, when I started, and obviously it depends out financially if it works, but I used to give client gifts on every placement. You go to their office and, mate, such an impact.
Deep pockets, Declan.
Hey.
When you start a business, everyone thinks you're rich, and you must be, mate.
No, mate, I had 6 square meters to work it out.
No, I think it's like you need to have that. You need to build those deep relationships, and like the more face time you have, the more time together.
But when we started in recruitment, it was very shallow relationships. I didn't even know how, like, I've got mates now.
Yeah.
Clients who are friends. Like,
Well, that's the dream. In recruitment, if your candidates and your clients become your friends, it becomes very easy to interact with them, like because you really know them and you build that relationship through
you know
rapport.
their kids' names, you know what they like.
And their footy team, and then when they lose, you text them and give them shit about it. Like that's the kind of relationships, and that's when it becomes really fun and a lot easier. Like it's and that is another takeaway.
How long do you reckon you got to stick it out until you really get the true benefit of being a good recruiter?
Oh, it happens quicker than like I think you probably imagine. Like I think, like going from Hayes to Talent 2 and seeing the amount of clients that followed me there, not within my contractual restriction period, obviously, because I wouldn't do that. That would be illegal. But that was gratifying. So I think anyone that's decent, that cares and works hard and tries to get good results for clients and candidates, you'll build that tribe and that network pretty quickly. And I think it can be 2 years for some people. Probably 3 to 5 years is realistic. I think you can do it if you – and, like, you find some people you won't gel with, they don't suit your style. That's cool. You can't appeal to everyone, and you shouldn't really try. And the longer you go by being a genuine, authentic self, you'll find those people that just get you and love you the way you are. Then that makes business really easy. Sometimes saying no to clients and them saying no to you is a blessing. you got to stand your ground and not drop your standards and say no often, and then you obviously enjoy your successes more as well.
I like that.
100%.
Hey, this hour and a quarter has absolutely
geez.
flown by.
We've run out of beer.
Wow.
Almost run out of beers.
Well, there's some pretty good takeaways. I like them.
There's heaps.
What else is there, Dan?
Tune in for chapter 2 to 7.
Chapter 2, chapter 3.
Who do you reckon's the best recruiter you've ever worked with?
I
Besides
reckon
yourself.
No, I reckon there's a lot of really talented ones, and they're like really, and elements of each of them I've taken away. Like funnily enough, like you executive, like is like I suppose Craig and Andy both worked at Talent 2, and when I started at Talent 2, Andy was a candidate resourcer. I think there was only 6 or 7 of us in the team. And now she's like the owner of like one of the most successful sort of boutiques that have blown up in history. But like, she's a great example of like a work ethic and like caring, like giving a shit about quality, but giving a shit about people as well, and combining that together. And I think that's like a good takeaway. I think when people have like the aptitude and attitude, but then they apply it well, like.
And how do you get that mix of quality and quantity? Because mate, like tricky, we would like, so this was our process. We would do company presentations. We'd do a 20-minute discovery call, 45 minutes to an hour interview. And then I was like, guys, this is taking way too long.
Yep.
Like by the time we submit, and maybe it's a part of us starting new roles from scratch.
Yep.
So that was limiting. But if you have a phone screen, you phone screen them, you know they're good, mate. You know when you talk to a candidate whether they're going to be good or not in the first call. Yep. Put them forward. Within a day, they're interviewed. But, you know, you might not have met them to the extent in which we do for our retained clients.
Yep.
So, like, how do you juggle that dichotomy?
I think
quality and quantity.
Yeah.
Or do you just have to focus on your niche where your quality becomes that consistent?
That's the thing. If you're in a niche,
create quantity.
Yeah. If you're in a niche, there's no wasted conversations ever, because they're people that are in your niche. So if they say, no, I'm not interested, or you interview them and you go, you're not right for that role, but you'll always have other roles to talk to them about, because you're
deep, reverse market them.
You're deep within your niche, yeah. But like, it sounds like I only think Andy is the best recruiter I've ever seen. That was just an example of someone that started off like, well, I was 4 years in when she started, and she was like the junior squirt, but her attitude and application and that drive, she's gone gangbusters. But there's people that, like I mentioned Graham earlier, like for executive search and like maturity and sage advice and like just being like really an intelligent recruiter, like he's probably hard to beat. But I worked with him when he was, you know, more looking forward to weekends at the beach and helping his colleagues rather than like driving. He still worked hard. He always walked really fast, but he was more supportive of us. Like he took me to meetings and gave me some tips and advice. And he actually said we were a great combo, because I was a bit more rough around the edges and I'd hit him with sort of different questions than he would. And we took on some good jobs. The first CEO role I ever filled was Graham and I went to a meeting together, and it was for a mining company. So he let me do it. And it was the first C-level role I ever filled, was going to a meeting with Graham. And we both walked out and went, gee, we nailed that meeting. And it was a lot of fun. I think the best recruiters like are lifelong learners. It sounds wanky, but you never done as a done product until you're done, as in the ground dead. So we should all be looking to get better and improve for our life as humans, but as recruiters, definitely. But I'll probably take bits, like even my mate Nigel, I mentioned him before, as far as like polished professional, like care factor, integrity, like there's none better. Does he go as fast as he should? No, but he knows that. And we like to give each other shit. He probably thinks I go too fast. And I think there's a middle ground, and everyone will find their middle ground, as you said, quality and quantity. But I think quantity, you can keep pushing it without sacrificing quality. And if you're deep in your niche, there's no wasted conversations or interviews. When you're a generalist, you go, I don't know if it's worth interviewing this person, which it adds a risk to the profile of the process. If you don't eyeball them and test them, that's a risk. You know, that can go pear-shaped. So you've always got to, you can't be half pregnant. You really got to commit to the process and almost just go, this is our process, whether it's contingent or retained or contract. So even if you can just FaceTime a candidate or do a quick Teams meeting with them, you've got to eyeball them, obviously best in the flesh. But I talk to any clients that are using other recruiters and they get a candidate, I say, ask the candidate at the interview what the process was with the recruiter. and they're often shocked at what the process was. Like they've ripped their CV off Seek, they've rung them on the phone for 5 minutes, and then they just put a header on it and send it over. Some recruiters don't even change it. They send it over with the candidate's contact details and everything. They don't even change the CV. That's when clients go, well, why should I pay 20 grand for this? And I actually go, yeah, why should you? That's a crap process. What was the question?
No. Quality, quantity.
Yeah.
Actually, what's you ended a couple of last podcasts really well, and the question was, what advice would you give to someone that's considering getting into recruitment?
Do it. I think it's an amazing industry. Like it's in the right company. Like it's almost like you're running a franchise without the risk. So it's Blended or Vendito or 40/20. They come in, they take all the like advantage of the database, the experience of their colleagues, and they basically can earn lots of money doing that. Or they talk to you guys about ex-recruiter and they go out on their own. Probably not from day one. Maybe get some experience first.
Month 2.
Yeah, week 3. But the best thing is it's a meritocracy. I love about recruitment is your attitude and performance dictates everything. It dictates your success, your earning potential, how much fun you have, how much freedom. Like the greatest luxuries in life are freedom of choice and time. And money is just a facilitator of that. Like don't get caught up in what money can buy you. The best things money gets you is freedom of choice and time. And especially once you're a parent, you realise that more. And recruitment is something that will create freedom of choice and time if you do it right. So anyone that is thinking about it, I encourage them. So the next guy that's coming on board is not just doesn't have any recruitment experience, but he's coming from overseas and he's like a construction guy. So I'm going off the reservation with this next one, but he's got it. He's got it all. He can be a huge success, and I think he will be.
And what about identifying a good agency? There's obviously like when you start out, you don't even know what a good agency is.
Yeah, and I actually like...
And it can be so detrimental. You could have the worst recruitment career if you're with a shit agency.
And that's where I think a lot of the drop-off is. They actually just sign up with crap agencies. Because I do think 80% of recruiters are just okay or crap. 20%, that's where the good, great and excellent are. And the same with the companies or the agencies. Like it probably is, maybe it's even 90-10. There's not a lot of great places to work in recruitment where it's not just like the brand, it's the support you get, it's the colleagues, the mentoring, like what's their reputation like and how talented are they? Like how do you know until you work there and you go, oh, what a bunch of turkeys. I actually encourage anyone that's thinking about a change of an agency is to confidentially talk to other recruitment people and because everyone knows everybody and it's like less than 6 degrees of separation. And whilst all the gossip and innuendo is not always true, where there's smoke, there's fire. So if they're thinking about a change, don't just talk to a rec direct and take their opinion on. Don't just believe the agency owner. Talk to like other people in the industry. Ask them questions like, what have you heard about these guys? Like, what's their reputation like? Ask to talk to their clients. Ask to talk to one of their candidates.
Interesting.
And see what happens then, because then that will really illuminate your opinion on what they're like. Because there's a lot of agencies out there that love them or hate them. It's all transactional, no relationships. They probably do pretty well. They've taken a lot of the human factor out of it. A lot of it's just automated stuff. And if that's what you want to do, cool. I mean, you don't need a lot of craft to do that. But if people that are intelligent and want to, be a craft person, an advisor, a proper consultant and consult, then they need to work. I think the boutiques, I think like 5 to 20 staff and experienced colleagues is brilliant for a first point. Because what they've done is they've probably had training in a big agency. They've tweaked that training to make it more bespoke for them and more user-friendly. And they throw you in the deep end but with support and they let you shine and spread your wings and get that fulfillment early. But in a measured way. So I like advocate for if anyone works for an agency and they're thinking about going out on their own, I'm like, go for it.
Awesome.
Anything you need. I've sent my terms to people. I've sent our like interview forms. I've sent anyone thinking about starting. I go, here's some collateral. Have a look at this. If it helps you get set up, here you go.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I think more people there's no competition except, as I said, that person in the mirror. So everyone should think more abundantly and just be like, how can we all help each other?
Yep.
And then I think you'll get more people entering the industry, hearing all the good stories, wanting to get involved, loving it, and then staying in it, which is what we all want.
Bloody oath. Well, mate, this has been an absolute cracker. You started strong with the beers and you finished well. So,
100%.
We just have to do the breathalyzer now. No, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks
Appreciate
for coming
it.
along.
Thanks, Joel.
Next step, Joe
40-20
Rogan.
consult. Thanks,
Thank you.
brother.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.